introductions. I'm Alex Hagan. I'll be the WisDOT Design and Construction Project Manager for this job, and Carla Canor here is my supervisor. During this presentation, I'll talk about the project location and schedule, construction work, detour route, construction staging, access to businesses during construction, temporary business signs, what WisDOT can do during construction, and what businesses can do during construction. The project area consists of just east of Silverado and Hull Avenue, all the way to Page Street. We have two segments. One is a pavement resurfacing project, and the other is a pavement replacement section. The Hull Avenue to Van Buren Street is the pavement resurface project, or portion of the project, and that work is scheduled to start right around June 2nd to avoid conflict with another project that's going to be detouring on 138 and has a completion date of October 9th of 2020. Van Buren to Page Street is a pavement replacement project, and that work will start after June 15th to avoid conflict with school district operations, and must be completed by August 28th of 2020 to avoid conflicts with the new school season. And work completed on 138, Judson, Kingsland, Van Buren, and Page Street will also have just 10-day windows in order to complete the work to help alleviate any traffic concerns. Like I stated earlier, we have two segments. One is Hull Avenue to Van Buren Street. That is the resurfacing, so that will consist of concrete base patching and asphaltic overlay, concrete joint repair, milling of the existing concrete pavement so it can match into the existing curb and gutter, curb ramps wherever within the existing right-of-way, curb and gutter, and driveway apron. Van Buren to Page Street will also have pavement replacement, curb ramps again within the existing right-of-way, curb and gutter, and driveway aprons. I do want to touch that the curb and gutter and the driveway aprons will be laid out by the city of Stoughton, as they have certain ones that they would like fixed with this project. So again, the proposed work is from Hull Avenue to Van Buren will consist of spot curb base patching, concrete joint repair, milling of the existing outside lane to match in, and a 2-inch asphaltic overlay. And Van Buren to Page Street again is a pavement replacement with 5.5 inches of pavement going in over a 16-inch substructure. The official detour for the Van Buren to Page Street will consist of taking Interstate I-39 up to the belt line and detour all the way around. But I know as local traffic will probably take the local roads in order to get to all the businesses, and I know the city is planning on having signing and a local detour for local traffic as well. So stage one in the pavement rehabilitation area will consist of island work right near Hamilton. There's those two islands. We're just going to be doing some repairs on those islands. So traffic will be shifted to the outside lanes with the inside lanes closed. Just in that general vicinity, well, everything will maintain its normal operations. And as you can see here, that's staging for that. Stage two will consist of base patching on the southern portion of the roadway. Traffic will then be bi-directional on the northern two lanes, and during that, which I'll touch on a little bit later, we'll only have access to businesses with right in and right out just to help with safety. And that's the configuration there for stage two.
Why don't you go over that a little more in detail so they understand what that is?
Sure. So on stage two here, we'll be just doing our concrete base patching on the southern lanes, and we'll have traffic in bi-directional with what we call ducts or flexible tubular markers down the center line to delineate so traffic can't cross each other. And then we will be milling the outside 12-foot lane to match into the curb and gutter with the overlay to have a consistent 2 inches over there.
So if you're doing right in, right out, does that mean center lane that's going that way, you're gonna be able to turn right across the construction area?
Yep, we'll have maintain access at all times to local businesses. And I'll touch on that a little bit more, because there is some kind of caveats with that. I guess I'll go over it once I'm gonna go over the temporary access, so I can kind of touch on that a little bit there. Stage 3 then will consist of, again, base patching of the northern portion of the road, with traffic being on the southern 2 lanes, again, in the bi-directional movement. But after we complete the base patching in stage 3, we'll then mill the outside lane, and then do the overlay on that northern portion of the roadway. And again, we'll have bi-directional traffic delineated with our flexible tubular markers and the concrete pavement and the overlay. And then stage 4, we will then flop traffic back onto the overlaid section, overlay the southern portion, and the contractor will have 10 days in order to complete that overlay section to minimize the inconvenience to the businesses on the southern half, since we will be closing that section again a second time. So, business access during construction. You will have vehicular access to businesses and residents provided in 51 will be provided at all times during construction, except for there will be some areas where we're doing the reconstruct, and I'll touch on that again a little bit later. Businesses with alternative access will be encouraged to use other accesses if possible during construction, and the contractor will have to coordinate with businesses a couple days in advance of closing any driveways. So an example of the access is we're going to tighten up our markers here so they can't make the left turn in, and it will be right in, right out, except we will allow cutting across for, like, into this area, you know, with our traffic, with the closure, they will be able to get in, we'll have to maintain access temporarily during construction, even through the construction zone, so.
Where is that?
This is just a mock-up.
Oh.
It's not anywhere in specific. So basically, in this configuration, traffic is on the southern half and construction's on the north half, but just business A will be up here, and we will have drums to delineate, so traffic heading westbound can make that right turn in. They just, however, won't be able to make a left turn out.
Who puts up signs like open to, all businesses open, or whatever?
I will actually touch on that a little bit later in the presentation, if that's all
I
right.
just wondered who does that, do you guys do it, or we?
That would be the city.
Okay.
Are we gonna have a question and answer period?
Yep, so after this, we can do kind of a general question and answer, and then anything specific we can kind of talk about here at the end. Pedestrian access during construction. Pedestrians will have access on at least one side of 51 at all times. And I have an example here, so, you know, if we're closing this corridor of South Madison and 51, they would have to come down here and cross and then come north, so that, you know, you won't just be able to make that movement. And if, vice versa, if we have that here, they'd have to come down and across that way, or potentially go to the next block. Advanced notice of closures. We'll have approximately 7 days notice prior to intersection closures, and approximately 3-day notice prior to driveway closures. However, with weather, it may not always be 3 days, but we're gonna push for the contractor, at least give you at minimum 3 days notice. And for durations of the closures, driveways off 51. So in the area where we're doing the pavement replacement, we're also doing a subgrade improvement. We are gonna require them to fill back up to grade so you can access your driveway in 1 day. However, with weather, it's not always possible. So there may be 1 to 2 days where local residents or businesses won't be able to access temporarily to their business for a day or two. Anywhere we have concrete base patching, it'll be around 3 to 4 days with cure time. And same goes for curb and gutter and any driveway aprons that are getting replaced. It may be 3 to 4 days where you can't use that specific driveway apron. So what can WisDOT do for you during construction? We will have field staff on site at all times to respond to any questions or concern affecting any local businesses or residents. We will be sending weekly updates via email, so if you could, please sign in and provide your email, and we will include you on the distribution list, where we'll have what was done that week, what's upcoming work. We'll have some photos and any contact information for you. We also have a website, In This Together, and I can send that out as well to anybody that signs in, and that provides case studies and example of how other communities maintain business during construction. We also have our WisDOT project website that'll have any information needed on there, and we can do permit signs desired by the city or businesses to kind of state that you guys are open during construction. And this is just kind of showing the link to the website, which again, I can send out to everybody that would like. So what can businesses do? Plan ahead, work with the Chamber of Commerce to devise a plan for success during construction. Work together to devise a creative plan or city theme used to advertise business areas. Staying informed, staying in contact with not only myself, but construction staff that'll be out here on a day-to-day basis, and reading our weekly construction updates and just not hesitating to reach out to any of us if you have any questions or concerns. Work with the city and other businesses to find alternate access points if needed. Advertise, keeping customers informed, and it's encouraged to just designate one person to filter all access questions through, just to maintain consistency. And then the city can also post any updates on their website as well. And with that, we'll kind of open the general question portion, and then after, if you have any specific questions to your businesses, we can touch base on that after.
Sure, I'll ask one.
Sure.
So DOT isn't posting any local detours, or it's not gonna say anything about access to businesses this way?
So we do not do local detours. We discourage that just because we don't want your roads to fall apart if all that heavy traffic is now going on local roads. So if the city wants to provide a local detour, that's fine. They would just have to meet certain requirements within our standards and certain signage. They'd have to run it by our traffic area.
And we intend to install a local detour similar to what was done this year when Main Street was closed. We utilized Van Buren Street down to Milwaukee Street, 4th Street back to South Street, and then over towards County Highway County Highway N, and back up to 51. So for a local detour, we plan to acknowledge that traffic will get to our city, that we'll need to know how to get through and around it. And that's at least how we plan to sign it as a local detour.
And this construction will show up on GPS, right? So if somebody's using GPS, it'll take them around it?
It should, yes.
It won't take them to Madison if they're trying to get from Main Street, from downtown to McDonald's, right?
I don't think, I'm not sure. I don't think Google would follow our detour per se. I don't think we necessarily enter that in,
Okay,
but it would tell them to take the quickest route to get to where they need to go. And I guess one thing I did want to touch on is certain roadways will be open at all time during certain phases, and certain roadways will be closed at all time. So in stage 2, for instance, Silverado, Hull Avenue, and Van Buren to the north will be open at all times, while Jurtson and 138 will have 10-day windows to complete the concrete work in front of each of those, except however, they will not be concurrent. And then roads such as King and Norris Street, because it's the triangle, they will be alternating, so one must be open while the other is closed. And Row and Pine, however, will be closed at all time just because they fall within that triangle. And it's a similar configuration for other stages as well.
Oh, for the whole construction stage, Row will be closed?
For stage 2, yes.
Lovely. The one other slide, you'll be able to do left-hand turns at Van Buren, at Page, at all times?
Yes.
So if my ladies come up, they'll be able
Oh,
to turn
Page,
left?
sorry, Page, no. Page is in the reconstruction area, so Page, we'll have local access for residents and people that work at the business, however, we're not encouraging local
So if they
traffic to
come up
drive.
Main Street to Page, go left up to Milwaukee and cut over, will they be able to go left there
That page.
at
I'm
Page?
sorry, I'm not,
They will not be able to when you're redoing that intersection. That's-
no, they won't be able to, but we have a 10-day window where they gotta complete all the work at Page Street. But you won't be able to access it at all through 51.
This may be more a question for the city, but can a private business put up a sign saying this way to Main Street Kitchen or something like that? Is that, I mean, I see those in some cities when these kind of major construction things happen, but
When we permit them on our state highways, we would not do individual businesses. We would encourage you to lump them together, because otherwise you're gonna have too many signs for people to read. I'm not sure what the city will do, but on our highways, the lettering has to be just a certain size, so we would encourage it to like group them together, like, you know, I don't know if you have a certain name for certain businesses, or downtown businesses this way, or whatever, but not an individual
well, I've seen signs also where they have
business sign.
5 businesses listed here this way to, you know, these 5, you know, businesses. I just wondered if that's legal or if it's,
I think that's part of the reason the chamber wanted to have this meeting. I think you're intending to try to have some of your local businesses talk about local signage that might be appropriate to commingle or collaborate on and present something to the city as to how that signage might be positioned. Is that true, Laura? I mean, you guys are
Ideally,
talking
we're
about-
hoping that from these talks, we're going to form a committee so that the people on Main Street that are affected by the construction are kind of leading the, what do you want to see to your businesses? So yes, the chamber's going to be the gatherer and the facilitator for this committee. Then funding the signs will be another conversation, but what we want to do, signage is one thing. I did look through the DOT's, what communities have done. There's also shopping incentives you can offer to people, but signage is probably gonna be the first thing we're gonna wanna talk about. And so that's why we're having these meetings.
And I guess one thing I do want to touch on in the reconstruct areas, while we will maintain access to local traffic, there will be times where, you know, they are undercutting the roadway, so you won't be able to access all the way through. And when I talk about local access, it's more of on like a nightly basis where we're gonna require them to have built that grade back up and access to certain driveways and businesses. But we will encourage people looking to go to the businesses to park on side streets and just kind of walk in. And
I just had a question on one of your slides. I know you had communication and work with the local chambers, and I think Lori, maybe you kind of alluded to this. Is there a guidance, or have you worked with chambers that have worked before with good communication, and do you have samples that you can share with us, or maybe you've already done that?
Yeah, that website has quite a few different examples of communities. Couple that I've worked with, they would lump, you know, businesses together and kind of direct them to their businesses. They had maps that they distributed. They put together little detour flyers that they would hand out. Every time a customer came, they got one to say how to access their business. A lot of shopping incentives. A lot of communities had parties afterwards. I mean, some got really creative and had that didn't deliver before, had a delivery service. I mean, all kinds of different ideas on there.
Now, I didn't see on the website specific examples. I saw communities listed, and then when you clicked into it, it kind of said, well, they got together 2 years before the project and started planning, but it didn't
give
really
the
say,
detail,
it didn't
okay.
say what it
Sure,
did.
so those are some of the ones I've seen.
So
some
maybe
creative.
we can just reach out to those communities.
Sure, but yeah, the big one is signing and distributing maps, I would say. And a lot of them do shopping incentives and a party afterwards. So give out tokens and then they can use that at the party to purchase things or.
But DOT doesn't have anything on their website that
I
has
thought
a
we had
list
couple
of, like,
examples, but maybe it's
checklist
not.
of things to do? Okay.
My question is on the previous slide, can you switch over to that? Like phase 3 is what it was, or stage 3.
Just thinking.
Okay, we're up by, I'm concerned with the area like up by McDonald's and that, and you said as far as driveway closures?
Yep.
To the businesses, so you're saying that, if I heard this right, we're gonna be closed down 1, 2?
So, I know a lot of the businesses, I know at least on the south have, a lot of the parking lots kind of interconnect. So, you know, if that is the case, we would then pre-warn and kind of work with all the businesses that share the parking lots. And then we would say close business A's apron to quick do the work, and we're gonna be using high early strength concrete in these instances. So it should be a 1 to 2 day, but it may be 3, it really depends on weather and how quickly it's curing. So then we'd encourage someone to use, you know, another apron to get in and then kind of work their way through.
Businesses that only have one access.
We'd be doing it half at a time, and it'd always be a one-way situation. And we do have stuff in our special provisions to help with that, to let the contractor know.
The biggest concern I have is not so much for my customers, but for deliveries. Because we have 3 or 4 deliveries a day with bigger trucks.
Sure.
They're generally coming from Madison and turning to the north, which would be,
To that left hand?
I mean, I can try to coordinate with that, but how's a guy with a tractor trailer go east?
Turn around.
And then,
And that will be difficult. I mean, it's gonna be something
I'm just trying to
where,
figure out in my head how I'm supposed to work that out.
So then they need
Because
to go east and then they need to get back to Madison. Is that what they're coming?
well, no, they're coming from the west, going east, and if you can't turn left,
Tell them to go up the interstate and
But even making
a lot
a
of
turn
the
like
shipping
that with a
companies,
big
you
tractor
can't
is gonna be.
talk to the driver and say, hey, go this way, that's not the way it works. And that's, I'm just trying to figure out a way to,
I don't wanna promote it, but they would almost probably use
They'll use
local
the-
roads, unfortunately,
well,
to,
not the local, but the
or our detour, or, I
county
mean,
roads.
I know it, or county roads, it's not ideal, I understand that. But we don't really wanna have those left-hand turns when you're,
I understand that.
just for traffic and safety.
Will a larger truck be able to make a right-hand turn across the construction lanes into a business?
Yeah, they should be. We'll have it drummed off so they can make that radius. It's just, they may have to hug it if we're doing it half at a time.
Okay,
We'll just go.
so it seems like that guy would be.
And-
go be-
And we can coordinate with you guys, I mean, we can see if you've got a delivery, we can try, you know, work with the contractor.
It's
say,
a realistically, I mean, it's something we can work around. That's, I was just more worried about the lane to get in, so we're open
Okay.
all the time. The delivery drivers, we can work around that. I just
Yep,
wondered-
no, you should always have access.
Okay.
And you may have already answered my question, but I am one of those, I work at one of the businesses that has more, there's more than one access to the business. Kind of, it's like Walgreens.
Yep.
Blackhawk and
Yep.
then St. Vinny's.
Mhm.
We're all kind of connected there. So you're gonna like alternate?
Yep, we wouldn't allow them to close them all, they must, we have that they must maintain access to businesses and residents, or I guess businesses more or less at all times, so we wouldn't allow them to close each one.
All right, that's good to know. Thank you.
So, for St. Vinny's, we only have the one driveway except that connects to Blackhawk. Would we have to communicate with Blackhawk or would that be done for us?
The contractor would communicate with everybody in that would theoretically share. So yes, they would be responsible for coordinating with both you guys and saying, hey, we're gonna close St. Vinny's driveway, they're gonna have to use yours temporarily.
Perfect.
We'll get your number.
So not all aprons are going to be done? Only certain ones?
For only certain ones in the city will provide us a list with certain ones that they want done.
It's already been provided, ones that had defective areas that needed to be repaired, not every one was slated for replacement.
So those businesses have been told?
No, they're on the plans,
Okay.
they'll get information from us as we finalize the share, cost share, if there's any associated with it.
Just one more thing is, I hope everybody's not getting too nervous about this. Yeah, it's gonna lose sleep, whatever, but if we all keep our heads and not get on these guys and ask them redundant questions all the time, I think it's our responsibility as business owners to do smart marketing. There's a ton of free stuff out there that we can do. I know a lot of instances where this has happened, where construction's happened, and businesses has actually grown. Just gotta, I came here just for information, okay, well, how are we gonna work around getting in and out? Everything else is on my shoulders. I mean, I'm not, yeah, of course, I'll go to the chamber, I'll ask questions, but I think as a business owner, I think we gotta, this was gonna happen, we knew this was gonna happen. And save for a rainy day, and we just keep our heads and everything will be fine. I'm surprised that there's not more people here. I'm kinda discouraged by that, but that's the way it goes.
So I was involved when Cambridge, this happened in Cambridge, and really a lot of businesses were really affected negatively in the city of Cambridge, or the village. And I'm wondering whether or not the DOT has come out with like some general guidelines for people to, or for cities to deal with an issue like this. If you've had any, if like there's a brochure or a pamphlet or whatever that we could give to businesses to say, here's the best way to handle this particular problem.
Really, the only guidance we have is that our In This Together website. I don't know of much of anything else that we have. It's kind of just,
And we come out and talk to people and offer suggestions of what we've seen in the past. We meet with chambers, things like that, but, really our hands are tied with doing the project. This gentleman said in order to be successful, we really need you guys to advertise and communicate with your customers and.
Well, I'm raising it because it might be a nice initiative for the DOT when you're doing a project like this in the city to have something that's, that's written or whatever that you can hand out. And it can be on a website too, but, to do kind of a best case, a best practices sort of thing as to how business, both the city and the businesses can handle these kind of problems. Because it's gonna take a while, so. Just a suggestion.
she was, and then I can go to you guys, sorry.
Okay, so I need help because I'm actually not from Stoughton, I'm just one of the managers at Pick and Save. So I really don't know my streets very well. But if I'm looking at it right, I think we're between Silverado Drive and Kingsland Road, is that right? Okay. So we have 3 entrances to our parking lot, obviously, 2 on 51 and then the one side one.
Yep.
So trucks coming in and out, I guess that's another question for me. I mean, we have trucks every single night.
Yep.
So is there a back way to come up that what there is? I don't know any of this, so I apologize.
They could come back here and come down Kingsland and then access off Kingsland. But
Okay.
I would make sure they would have at least one entrance off of 51 at all times.
Okay, so we'll have at least one,
And then Kingsland will only be closed for 10 days. When we
okay?
do the repair work there, and then, a day for the overlay and the day for the milling.
Okay,
So if they're coming westbound, they can just turn up Kingsland, except for those couple
for
days.
a couple days, okay, so we have, okay, that was my main question, that I can get trucks in and out, obviously, so, okay.
So Kingsland does not have left-hand turns, right only, but what about through, from the Walgreens parking lot?
We wouldn't be allowing the through.
Okay. Even though it's like, there's a light?
Yeah,
Okay.
we'd be coordinating and the light would probably be turned off.
Oh,
That would just be basically treated as a giant driveway, right in, right out.
It's just that the Walgreens access there collects cars from Black Hawk, St. Vinny's and Walgreens all there. And then if that's a lighted situation, that might be the only place for people to get out to the left.
I was just wondering, I'm not sure what happened to the road behind the Cummins store there, if that's all blocked off now, but I'm wondering if we can open that up again, so they can go in through West Main Street.
Yeah. It's basically one car wide back there.
Is it?
But it's still an access, we can get through, I don't
Yeah,
know,
that's Cummins, but
but I mean, they might be able to work with us.
That'd probably be for the city.
And then I was gonna ask too, I mean, for the people that are here that gave their email addresses, could we be sent this PowerPoint?
Sure,
Will that be awesome?
absolutely.
Thank you.
We'll post it on the city website as well.
I'll actually just go ahead and send it to everybody who got the notice about this meeting, which is with a handful of exceptions, every business on the construction route.
And it'd probably be best if I just sent it to the Commerce and they distribute it versus getting it from 3 or 4 different
So
people.
if you've got the notice about this meeting, you'll get the,
And I'll just send it to Rodney and the Commerce and then they can send it on.
So Page, the intersection of Page and the intersection of Van Buren will have full closures to that whole intersection at times?
Basically just east of Van Buren. This will be full closure. And then we're gonna limit Page itself to 10 days to complete the work.
Can we always go across Van Buren? I
I
think you said something about north,
There's some.
believe you can make, I believe, I have to double check, I might be able to make that movement at certain points, but not the entire project.
okay. But this is all summertime.
But I know, for instance, if you're here, you can make like the left movement, except for when it's closed for the work being done on Van Buren. But we'll encourage to open it back up when they're done with the work adjacent to it.
And it's all after Sutton Yard too.
So the work will be going on, except, yeah, sorry, that is after I set in mind, except for however, we will have Page and Van Buren will have full access during your fair. So that will be wide open. Any other questions?
I suppose I would like to know, does anybody here want to start continuing to meet about a committee about signage? We could have a couple of initial meetings and then pull the city in once we've decided some things. Looks like Joe's nodding his head.
Could we do like more than just signage, like talk about the free stuff like Google, Facebook, email list, all that stuff?
Yeah, I'll do a better job of looking into we're in this together before our first meeting. And hopefully speak with some of the communities, leaders in their chambers. So, yes.
I would like
Okay, great. Was that, you wanted to be involved there, Joe?
Yeah.
You can add St. Vinny's to the list.
Excellent. I will also invite the people who weren't at this meeting from that, the same list, to see who else would like to be part of it.
So I'll stick around. Alex has got a little family emergency he's gotta take off for, but I'll stick around and answer questions if you guys have any.
Well, thank you for doing the work.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
It's gonna be awesome to have that.
Don't hesitate to reach out to me at all if you have any questions. I do have some cards on the back table as well that I'll leave if anybody needs any.
We'll save our jaws from rattling after.
Way to